Welcome to Everything Casual, bringing you original football casual videos from the golden era of the 80s and 90s, right up to current day. Football away day stories and historic clashes between football firms. Subscribe so you don't miss out. We upload videos every week. Good evening. Tonight we revisit a pivotal moment in football history, the FA Cup quarter-final between Newcastle United and Nottingham Forest on March 9th, 1974. What began as a thrilling match descended into chaos, culminating in a pitch invasion that would forever alter the course of the tournament. St James Park was packed to the rafters as Newcastle faced Nottingham Forest. The atmosphere was electric, with both teams vying for a spot in the semi-finals. However, tensions were high, and the match was poised to test the limits of both players and supporters. Following success in the earlier rounds, Newcastle United found themselves at home in the quarter-finals of the FA Cup in front of a crowd of over 54,000, facing second division Nottingham Forest. Excitement was at fever pitch, as they were only a couple of games away from the final. The great unwashed of Sunderland had won the cup the previous year, so surely it was our turn to get out the daft hats, practice a bide with me and take a trip down Wembley Way. Newcastle's form leading up to that game had been poor, especially at home, so the writing seemed to be on the wall when we went behind in under 2 minutes. It didn't get much better, and we started the second half 2-1 down. Coming up to the hour mark, disaster struck when our big centre-half, Pat Howard, was sent off for pushing the referee in the chest when disputing a penalty award. Forest scored, and we found ourselves trailing 3-1. With dreams of Wembley fading fast, several hundred fans from the Leazes couldn't take any more and ended up invading the pitch. The ref hastily took the players off the field for 10 minutes while the police restored order. Amidst the turmoil, Forest's central defender Dave Serella was attacked by a fan. The assault left Serella shaken and highlighted the depths of the unrest among the crowd. Despite the challenges, both teams agreed to continue the match after a delay. The Newcastle fans were slated in the press due to the pitch invasion, and many argued we should be kicked out of the cup. That season, we of course went all the way to Wembley, only to get trounced by a certain Kevin Keegan and Liverpool 3-0. The following year, we were ordered to play all our cup games away from home. Certainly a controversial set of matches that live in the memory. Newcastle managed a remarkable comeback, winning 4-3. However, the Football Association deemed the match void due to the disturbances. A replay was scheduled at Goodison Park, where Newcastle eventually triumphed again, securing their place in the semi-finals. Let's listen to first-hand witness accounts. This is what one Newcastle fan had to say. Can't remember the game itself, but straight after the match on a Saturday afternoon, we began to queue for tickets for the 6th round of the Cup, at home to Nottingham Forest. Tickets were going on sale at 11 a.m. Sunday morning, but by 6 or 7 a.m. they could have sold the lot. There were problems, and I remember dogs and horses making gaps in the crowd. When I got through the turnstile with my ticket 18 hours after first queuing, I kissed my ticket. "Put it away," a policeman said, and I hid it deep in my pocket. That ticket gave me access to the greatest game I have seen. Not the greatest skill or best goals, but tense, frustrating, full of blood and guts and passion. Passion. 3-1 down, and a man sent off, and 100 pairs of Oxford bags, and Doc Martin sprinted onto the pitch, galvanised by the legendary fat bloke, teams off the pitch till order was restored, and then both given the option to continue. Forest agreed. Cue bedlam, wave after wave of Newcastle attacks screamed on by the Leazes end, which contained me. 2-3 Terry Mack, 3-3 John Tudor, 4-3 Bobby Monker. Coming back home to Whitley Bay, we nearly crashed on the coast road as my friend's brother kept saying, "What a game, what a game," as he drove us home. The best game I have ever been to does not officially exist in the record books, as we were ordered to play again because of the pitch invasion. But I tell you what, I worked hard for that ticket, and those lads wearing the shirt gave me a game I will never forget. And this is another witness account of what happened on that Saturday in 1974. A friend of mine tells a good story about the Lads' End at St James's Park. It was the infamous 1974 FA Cup tie against Nottingham Forest, and the score was 3-3. Bobby Moncur scored to put Newcastle improbably ahead, and the crowd, as they say, went wild. My mate was duly leaping around with the best of them when his right foot landed on something a bit sharp. It was a set of dentures. The old fellow next to him grovelled about on the terracing to retrieve them. They had, of course, been expelled in the frenzied delight immediately following the goal. The man dusted his forces off and popped them back in. They were going in all directions, but he seemed pretty unperturbed. The Lads' End never quite had the street cred of the Gallowgate. Mind you, it never had the rivers of piss flowing down it either, which was one good reason for going there. You weren't exactly regarded as a feat if you used the Lads' End, but somehow you didn't inspire the pie-eyed awe in the bar as the Gallowgate regulars did. In the year 1974, the Lads' terracing was, if anything, slightly larger than the Gallowgate. It had a roof, but it was a bit of an apology for a roof, rather like the one on Chelsea's shed. When the East Stand was finally built in 1974, after much wrangling and several builders' strikes, the Lads' was earmarked as the next part of the ground for redevelopment. The roof disappeared, and so did most of the terracing. So, unfortunately, did the team. Newcastle were relegated in 1978, and the Lads' was left a bit like the defence, too small, in a complete shambles and with no cover. And that was pretty much how it stayed for the next 15 years, until the ground was almost completely reborn. The only part left now is the East Stand, which for many years was known as the New Stand, and which, after redevelopment, was always referred to as the Old New Stand. Let's listen to one more witness account of events that unfolded that day. Congratulations, Nottingham Forest, on reaching the Premier League. To be honest, I wasn't that fussed about the Championship playoff final. Not really bothered about who won. Didn't even watch it. The only thing I was thinking about was wondering how easy it would be to get tickets to Huddersfield or Nottingham Forest away next season. What awkward time kick-off it might be, and will I have to spend the night away on the drink? However, something is bugging me, and it's that I believe that Nottingham Forest don't like Newcastle United. I could be wrong, and it could just be banter. But based on experience and hearsay, that's simply the impression I get. I know this thought process could be pointless, because I know quite a lot of other fans don't like us, and more so now, many will dislike us, hate us even more. So adding Nottingham Forest to the list would be no big deal. Don't get me wrong, I've had some great trips to the City Ground, and some great memories and friendly nights, especially the last time we played them in an away league match on a winter's Friday night, back in December 2016. I am now looking forward to going back again, and I hope their great support are feeling the same way about their visit to the Toon. Nottingham has some great links with the North East, none more so than the small ex-mining village of Calverton, which is home to the Calverton Working Men's Club, aka the Geordie Club. It was Geordies, like Hanwell Town FC, who set it away after coming down to Notts, to work in the pit with the lure of a new house, and apparently many of those miners who moved with their families used to work in the Rising Sun pit in Wallsend. As I sat, I know I shouldn't assume anything, but I do perceive that the Nottingham Forest fans don't really like us Geordies, and they still hold it against us for stopping the game that would have put them into an FA Cup semi-final way back in 1974. For this then 9-year-old kid, I remember a lot about this game, as it's the big standout memory for me, alongside the Spurs Cup semi at home in 1976. I even remember the big fella with the white shirt being probably the first on the pitch, and I actually got barged out the way in the northeast corner of the Lads'. where us kids gathered, because you got a good view from the small wall in those days. The thing is, for me, we did Nottingham Forest an almighty favour by running onto the pitch that day. If they had progressed, then I am convinced they'd never have had the legend that was Brian Clough. The then manager Alan Brown would have kept his job a lot longer, because they may well have beat Burnley in the 1974 semi-final and generated more money for new signings. As it happens, luck transpired. Nottingham Forest won 2 European Cups, possibly the biggest achievement by any English club. May I also add that, in those days, I believe that as kids, we all wanted fellow English and British clubs to win in Europe, which I couldn't say that is the case today. Nottingham Forest, however, is an amazing example of it, showing you what can be achieved by having the right people on the technical side and with excellent team spirit. The events of March 9, 1974, served as a stark reminder of the potential for violence in football, and it is still here, and isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you subscribe, you will be notified when we release a new video. It could be your firm we make a video about next, so don't miss out and hit the subscribe button. You can find me on Facebook or email me if you have a good story to tell. See you next time.